motor units. This is a really interesting, important concept. We're going to come back to it again in the nervous system because this concept of motor units has to do with the relationship between the nervous system and skeletal muscle fibers. So we're going to start with, what on earth is that? This will become very familiar to you in Unit 3. That is part of the spinal cord. And from the spinal cord emerges, and we're not going to talk about all of this business yet, but basically this is a nerve, okay? And inside that nerve is nerve is, by definition, a bunch of axons all bundled together. So the neuron actually starts way back here in the spinal cord, and then this axon, the wire of the neuron, travels very, very far to get to some of the skeletal muscles. It can go from the spinal cord in, let's say, upper lumbar region of your spinal cord, all the way to the tip of your toe. One single cell, one single axon. So these axons inside the nerve are very long in some cases. And they'll travel down there and maybe move a muscle in your toe. So that's what these things are. And there's actually two nerves. They're showing you two neurons, which are the cells inside the nerve. There's a red one and a blue one. Okay, so let's just come back down here and take a look at what these things are. These are all skeletal muscle fibers. So we've got actually a total of 6 skeletal muscle fibers there, and it's only part of them. You remember they're really, really long and skinny, and you can see they've been cut off, so it's not the entire cylinder. And you can see there's all these wires, all of these axons leading to the skeletal muscle cells that will signal them to contract. Okay, but what's with the different colors? So these are the type of neuron they are. They're motor neurons that start there in the spinal cord. So motor neuron. Again, motor means it's sending the signal to a muscle instead of like a sensory neuron would be sensing something back, bringing it back to your brain. Motor neuron is sending the signal out to your muscles. So a motor unit is one of these motor neurons and all of the muscle fibers that it innervates. So the thing is one neuron can innervate more than one muscle fiber. It can cause contraction in, say, 2 muscle fibers or 100 muscle fibers. Just depends. In this particular example that's illustrated here, they've got 2 neurons, one's blue, one's red. The red one, we'll start with that one. The red motor neuron carries its signal to, I'm sorry, I didn't do the whole route. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that motor unit, always one neuron. And in this case, it's 4 fibers, referring to muscle fibers. So that is one motor unit. One neuron and all the fibers it innervates. In this case, it's 4. Then we've also got a blue neuron. Maybe I'll also be cheap and not take the full right. So the blue neuron, it's different. It only innervates 2 muscle fibers. So again, one neuron, always one neuron. And in this case, 2 fibers. Why? Why do we have variation in motor units? Some motor units are big. This one's the bigger one. They can get really big, though. There could be like 100 fibers. There's always one neuron, but there could be a lot of fibers. And some motor units are really small. Single neuron, just a couple fibers. Okay, so I usually ask students, why would you only want to contract a couple muscle fibers versus a bunch? Why would you only want to contract a couple? Well, small motor units. So this is a small motor unit. I'll just say MU. A small MU is for like a fine motor control. That's what it's often called. So really delicate movements where you want very precise control. So what area of the body would you want that? Where do you need fine motor control? Hopefully you're thinking fingers, hands. Hands do a lot of delicate work. They can anyway. So that's an example. Face muscles, actually, the facial muscles are very precise. So those are a couple areas, hands and face. Now, if you have a big motor unit, so this is big or a large motor unit, you have really just like crude control. And yeah, it's usually areas of the body where you're not going to need fine muscle control. You probably need power and force, like strength. Muscles in your butt, which you may have already learned in lab, depending on when you're watching this video. Gluteal muscles are in your butt, or just the muscles of your thighs, like the quadriceps, for instance. Those are big muscles in your anterior thigh. You don't need fine motor control. You're not going to play the piano with your butt. So big motor unit is totally fine. You're just going to stand up, get up, and go. So big is crude control, and then good examples would be the gluteal muscles or thigh muscles. Those are a couple examples. Small motor unit is fine motor control, and that would be like hands and face. Okay, so those are motor units. Again, this is an important concept. I do want you to know this. We will come back to it again in the nervous system. It's really interesting.